Actor Amanda Peet is sharing details of a difficult and deeply personal battle in her life. In a new essay for The New Yorker, the 54-year-old actress reveals she was diagnosed with stage 1 breast cancer last year. And listen to this. It happened while both her parents, both of them, were in hospice care on opposite coasts.
You're not yourself, Coop.
No role could have prepared Amanda Peet for the challenges she faced last year. In an essay for The New Yorker titled My Season of Ativan, the actor and mother of 3 revealed how she learned she had breast cancer during a routine checkup last August, just days before her father died in hospice in New York. She writes, "I didn't make it before my father took his last breath, but I got to see his body before he was taken from his apartment. I felt guilty for not crying, but at least I got a reprieve from guessing how much longer I had to live." She said she couldn't bring herself to disclose her father's death or her own cancer diagnosis to her mother, someone she had talked to about everything. "My mom lived in a cottage 20 feet from our kitchen," she says, "but it didn't cross my mind to go tell her because she was in the final stages of Parkinson's disease." But Pete and her husband did eventually share the news with their daughters. She writes this, "Molly cried, and Frankie, FaceTiming from her college quad, clapped her hand over her mouth and kept it there until she was able to process the excellent portion of the news, that it appeared I was stage 1 and was not going to need chemo."
Boy, Pete says she got her first clear scan in mid-January, just weeks before planning her mother's funeral. Her moving story is another powerful example of the reality facing what's being called the sandwich generation. That's adults, mostly in their 40s and their 50s, caring for aging parents on one hand while raising their own kids. Think about that for a second. Joining us now to talk about these challenges is board-certified psychiatrist Dr. Sue Varmer. She's author of the book Practical Optimism. Very good title, very good book. Good to have you here, Sue.
Thank you. Great to be here.
This is a pretty common thing for a lot of people, where you're balancing both sides of the spectrum in your life.
Yes. And, Gayle, more than half of people in their 40s are in the sandwich generation.
More than half?
More than half. We see that people are living longer, so they have longer lifespans, but not necessarily longer health spans. That means the quality of their life in their later years is not good, that they're living dependent on other people, especially older women. The last decade of life, a lot of them are in nursing homes, immobile, living with chronic disease. And then the younger folks are having kids later in life. So it's not surprising that this sandwich generation is dealing with stress on both ends and with big tolls to their mental health.
That's my next question. What happens psychologically when you have multiple crises at one time?
Yes. You know, it's very interesting, Gayle, because you are dealing with, when in the caregiving, it's mostly the women. 60% of these caregivers in the sandwich generation are women, and in their 40s and 50s, they're going through their own hormonal changes. So you have perimenopause and menopause and all of the irritability and the anger and the sleeplessness and the hot flashes, in addition to taking care of so many logistics. You've got the medical appointments of the young kids, you're getting dental appointments, taking them to their sports, teacher-parent conferences, and trying to be there and being excited for this phase of life for your young kids. And I've been there myself, dealing with aging parents, losing my mother, and knowing very much what that feels like. You feel frail, you feel brittle, you need so much more support. Nobody understands what you're going through, especially if they're not losing their parents at the same time.
Do you feel guilty?
Absolutely. You know, I think women always feel guilty when they're caregiving. You never feel like you're enough. You're not there for your partner, for your friends, you know, in my case, for my patients, or you're there for one person, you're not there for other people. And I think it's so important. This essay really resonated with me on so many levels, especially how do you protect yourself, and this idea of sometimes you have to avoid the very person you're caregiving for. And that is so painful. When Amanda writes about, I didn't visit my mom for many weeks, and I know exactly what that feels like. There's a part of you that's trying to survive, and then on top of that, if you're dealing with your own medical diagnosis, as she was, and your own illnesses, it's so hard. Anxiety, depression, insomnia, guilt.
Yeah. Pete talks about the importance of her village, her sister, husband, close friends. This question hits home for me because on both sides of my family, my mom, my dad, aunt, and 2 great aunts, one has since passed, I am the village. So the question of those surrounding these circumstances, what can we do to help? Because sometimes I feel so stuck.
Yes.
And I'm so far away, I don't feel like I can touch the situation, but I want to help so desperately.
Yes. Nate, that's so beautiful. Just your willingness to show up. It could be in the form of humor. It can be in the form of distraction. Hey, can I take you out? Would you like to go out for a beer? Would you want to watch a game? Can I bring a meal over? Laughter. Giving that person moments of reprieve that reminds them that they're a human being, that they have a life, that they have meanings of moments of joy and meaning in their life. Because caregiving can so envelope you, and it can make you forget that you are a person that has needs, that wants to laugh. And don't feel guilty. If you're having moments and you're having a loved one in the hospital and they're dying, you're still allowed to take care of yourself. You're allowed to exercise. You're allowed to go for a walk. You're allowed to take a break to watch a show. I think it's so important that caregivers tap into caregiving support groups. That's really important.
She mentions Ativan in the title. What role does medication play? Can you briefly talk about that?
It can play such a big role. As a psychiatrist, I'm very careful when I prescribe something like benzodiazepines. These are medications that are meant for short-term anxiety 2 or 3 times a week during heightened periods of stress, but they're not really meant for daily use. If you're really finding that you're struggling, cognitive behavioral therapy, something like an SSRI, which is something that's taken daily, should be discussed with a behavioral health provider. It's totally okay to say, I need short-term therapy, I need short-term medication, only to get me through this year. That is 100% okay. Think about those things in advance. When you have someone dying, get the help early.
Dr. Palmer, thank you so much. Author of Practical Optimism.